it's just like the law of compounding. If you can put all your energy and all your brain power, then like there's that whole energetic law of the universe and visualization, law of attraction. You put that into one thing. Look how much you guys have grown in a year because you've both had solid focus on that one thing. It's fucking crazy. Now, let's start talking about some of those growth factors. But I think we can't really talk about the growth that's happened without talking about kind of the problems that were evident in the business before you guys, I don't know what happened, how you guys came together and decided we're going to pivot this way and we're going to do it like this. And obviously things have worked out great. But what was kind of, where was the problems in the business before? I know there was a few things like retailers in the UK or partners in the UK and the agency problem. Paint the picture of kind of where you're at before you got this clarity and moved forward in this new direction.
The agency was definitely the biggest problem. Drained our bank account.
Yeah, we were in a position. So if we rewind 12 months ago to November, we were growing organically quickly and we didn't know how or why, right? This is a good thing and a problem at the same time. And not knowing how the assumption is it'll just keep going, right? So at the time we had an agency that was doing okay, to be fair. And I just didn't think that this person was going to be good enough to get it to continue the momentum and get us to the next stage. So in November last year, I moved us to a different agency. And that was where everything started to go wrong for us. But it also got us to where we are now. And I'm glad we did it, but we went through hell. Yeah. But we went to the new agency, and like most people that are probably listening, you don't actually know what the agencies do or how they do it, why they do it. They give you this monthly report with some cool pictures on it, and it says, keep going, good stuff. Right? and we'll keep spending your money and we'll take you to lunch.
Yeah.
So we were starting to see like the agency that we were using was spending like so much money and just the return was starting to get really bad. And admittedly, I didn't know what they were doing or if it was bad, if it was as bad as we thought it was. But it was when I looked. But it was trying to understand how bad it was. And then at the same time, we decided to launch into the UK with this big global partner. And they, sold us the dream, and they took us down this rabbit hole of building websites and all this stuff. When it came to the day where we had to talk about revenue expectations and marketing allocation, they just said, oh yeah, how much are you willing to spend? Let's say $1,000 a day for the year, 300 grand a year, £300,000 a year. And the expected revenue was going to be £200,000. And they thought that was a good go. And I was like how you are now. I was like,
we told them to stop.
Do you guys know numbers? Are you guys joking? Yeah. And they're like, that's good. I'm like, what do you mean it's good? What about the cost of the product? What about the cost of the operations? What about the whole business?
We would have been bankrupt.
Got to survive off this. And they couldn't figure it out. So I got the CFO of this company that has 80,000 employees on the call. I said, are you fucking stupid? And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean? This is going to bankrupt us. I want out of this now.
Yeah.
That's fucking mental.
And we're still trying to get out of it properly.
We're in an almost legal battle with them.
Really?
Yeah.
So
that stuff is legal battles when you're in business is such a killer because it's the money, and obviously lawyers are very expensive, particularly international lawyers, but it's the brain capacity that
they tried to charge us 300. What was it? How many? $300,000 to get out of the contract. But we refused.
So that all happened early this year. A bad agency, bad deal over there, nearly bankrupt us, to be completely fair. Then
paint the picture you guys at home, like how do you guys keep each other up, like, and not just be like, let the defeatist attitude, because you're both in it. Like usually if there's one partner's got one business and one's working a job or another business, you're not both experiencing the highest highs and the lowest lows at the same time. Yeah. You guys both were. What's the mood around the house when you're just like, fuck, babe?
I wish I could show you a video. But very different. I go for the jugular, say fuck a million times and scream and yell. He's very calm, then waits for me to settle down and delete my email before I send it.
Just type it up and delete it.
I don't know, there's some, I don't know, the universe looks out for us though, because I think we do go through these really, really tough times. And this particular time, I think it was in April, like we had no money and I was just like, Adam, we've got no money. And it's like, these people have taken all of our money from us. The ads aren't working. Like, what do we do? Wholesalers aren't paying. Like on paper, like we've got money, but it's not in the bank account. And then I'm at home and I just had surgery and I was on pain meds. I'm sitting on the lounge crying my eyes out, like hyperventilating, thinking like I'm a failure, because it's 4 years in and I was like, we shouldn't be going through these fucking problems anymore. Like, of course, but like not to that extent. Yeah. And then he rushed home and he's like, it's going to be okay. He goes, that's right. We'll go and do certain things and I'll go
fire the agency. We'll get out of the contract.
Fire everyone, everything. And then before you got back to the office,
which is a 2-minute drive.
It was about a 5-minute drive. I called him and I go, you're not going to believe it. Guess who just called me? Priceline, and they want to like place like over $1 million order. I think it was like 1.7.
It was a wig out. It was like I was driving back to the factory and like, all right, game mode, let's go. And then I turn around half before I even got there, and I get back and she's like happy tears, like, from sad tears to happy tears. I'm like, what? And she's shaking. She's like, Priceline you had never even emailed us.
So this was out of, you weren't already like in discussions?
No discussions, so just a random mobile number.
So
how did they even get your number?
So how it happened was the buyer that got us into Adore Beauty like 3+ years ago, she left Adore Beauty and started working at Priceline. And she wasn't working in the fragrance category, but she told Bridget, who actually now works for Who's Elijah. That's cool. She told Bridget, like, you have to get Who's Elijah, because Bridget ran the fragrance category. You have to get Who's Elijah on the shelves. They sell like crazy for us. And that's all it was.
So out of nowhere, you get a phone call, no discussions, no decks, no pictures, no samples.
I sent all of that after the initial phone call, but
not before.
Yeah. Not before, no. So, but like after like a certain time, like your brand's out there. Like, of course. They had been, admittedly, they said that they had been watching us for a while. So they obviously want to see how you build up your socials and like all of that stuff. But I think that was in April, and we soft launched in May, hard launched in June.
Yeah. And
had money again at the end of June.
So that moment, now I like to talk about this as well, because obviously we talk about a lot of the problems and the challenges that entrepreneurs go through, and it isn't all sunshine and rainbows, as we all know. But what is that night like you get home and you're just like, fuck, like, of course we've got this, but look at this. How do you celebrate those wins?
Yeah, I think we just like sat on the lounge, we had a glass of wine, and it's just like that complete sense of like release and like let go.
Yeah.
And something I did say throughout the time while we're getting the order ready and waiting for the money was our like whole like, thoughts about the business changed, obviously, but we hadn't got $1 from them yet. So we were still in the financial spot.
Cash flow day to day.
But we were happy because something was coming. Yeah. But we didn't have it for 2 or 3 months, and we still were like, everything's fine, everything's good, which it was. So
was that invoice paid in one go, like at the end of the month, whatever the term? So fuck, that would be
So it was.
We went to Europe like 2 days before.
Europe 2 days later, but we had and that was in March and April. We had the bad start. Then we actually called Paul, one of our advisors. We just spoke about Paul Waddy, and he came to the office for the first time, and we were in this spot, this panic before Priceline. And he's like, fuck, I wish I got here sooner, guys. Like, talk to me. And I just laid it all out to him. And he's like, guys, it's not as bad as you think. You know how we said before, he just clearly sees problems for what they are. Yeah. And he just goes, guys, you're doing good. Everything's fine. Do this, this, and this. So we had that like sense of relief as well from him. We had the sense of relief from Priceline. And then we had the marketing agency, got rid of them. And I took on the ads in-house. Which is an awesome thing we should talk more about. But we killed it on an end of financial year sale, which was June 30, 2 days after we got the Priceline money. So we were just like, all of a sudden we went from like, we're in trouble here to like, let's go.
The best period that the business has ever experienced.
And that's why from June till now, I was just saying to the team before, we went from 8 to 28 people, machines, all these stockists, and it was because of that phone call from Priceline and the change in agency, which, has been the best thing for us.
Best thing for sure. Now, You get the order, I believe it was like 40,000 bottles of
42,000.
42,000 bottles.
Yeah.
You had like a team of 7 or something at that time. How do you, how do you react to be like, okay, sweet, we got the order, but we need to produce it, bottle it and make this actually exist before we can even think about getting the money.
Yeah. Well, we had some time. I think we had 6 weeks to fill it, but we didn't have any machines.
You were hand filling it, right?
We were hand filling.
Even 42,000 bottles.
Crazy.
Literally. So it did take us 4 so weeks. It came in like 2 separate POs. So the first one was just 10 mils. I think, how many was that?
10 mils like the stick one?
Yeah. So that might have been like 10,000 bottles. So we had to deliver that first. And then the next one was the 42,000. And it kind of shut down
the whole business
for about 6 weeks or so.
Yeah.
But that's when we started to bring on more people, wasn't it?
Yeah, we had no choice.
Yeah.
And we had like late nights and,
Yeah, the girls are doing like 12-hour days.
Like we were there till 8 o'clock at night and just going for it. So
those war room days are the best, particularly when you're at war for a good reason.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And just coming off like one of the most turbulent, challenging periods, it must feel so much sweeter. It's like when you're building something and it's like there's a lot happening and like things are breaking as you scale, and then the whole team is like really gets tight and comes together for like that bigger purpose, for this vision that's all of a sudden starting to click after all these years of hard work. It wasn't just one phone call that came out of it.
Yes,
it just happened to come at a really interesting time of the story. Now, how do you go from 7 to obviously 28 in a year, or probably I wouldn't be surprised if it's 30 by the time this episode comes out.
By the time we get back to the office.
Now, we obviously spoke last time you were on, Raquel, about some challenges with potentially hiring too soon and navigating that. How have you guys been able to hire over 20 people in a year? Has anything changed around your thought process or processes around bringing people into the business?
Well, most of the staff that we have hired, or a good chunk of them, have been in the warehouse. So they're quite easy. I want to say easy hires, but the sort of our existing staff just go and hire people that they already know. And that's how everyone got hired. But then we started hiring upstairs staff, so like our office employees. So who we got? We got an e-commerce manager. We desperately needed that role. So now I think we hire based on almost desperation, because it makes us almost feel a little bit safer that we know that we need that hire
rather than hiring too early.
Yeah.
Like, fuck, I hope we can
Would you
go
say
to the
that?
point
Yeah,
we can keep you on.
Yeah. And I mean, we hired like 4 people in a week, didn't we, at one stage?
Yeah. Yeah. We've been, I think last time we're still doing this like friends connection, even for some of these more senior roles. And we put the ads out this time. We did, better at hiring processes. We're not perfect at it, but we definitely did better at like interviews, and we had Paul sitting on some interviews and he asked questions that we just didn't know to ask. And, I think we can easily, both of us, say, yeah, you're good. No worries. You can have a job, but, we really should be like, there's probably 4 other people that are as good. So we need to look at all of them.
Yeah.
And it's that, saying that you, hire slow and fire fast, and we're probably still hiring.
Hire slow,
fire fast. Yeah, we're probably still hiring.
Well, it's one of those things that it's like a little bit goes against like what you think your instinct would be, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's definitely gotten better at it. We've got a great team upstairs now, so going into this tomorrow, Black Friday, like I don't know what we would have done if we didn't have these people.
Yeah.
And they're such a good team.
What was the most considered role that you've had to hire for upstairs, do you think?
Well, Bridget was the buyer that got us into Priceline. So she actually ended up leaving Priceline while I was in America recently. And we got like an email saying, oh, farewell, Bridget. And because when Adam and I first spoke to Bridget when she was getting us into Priceline, we both looked at each other and were like, fucking, we need to hire her. She's fucking phenomenal. And then I saw this email and I said to Adam, I was like, should I text her? Like, I think we should hire her.
And I said, text her immediately.
So I texted her and she called me and I was like, oh, what are you going to do? And she's like, oh, I've got some interviews. I'm like, okay. I'm in LA. I'm back on Friday. Do not take a job. I want you to work for me. Do you want to work with us? And she's like, fuck yes.
That's hectic.
And I hired her on the spot as soon as I got home.
Yeah. And so what's she leading, like retail expansion?
The wholesale, like global sales account manager. She's taught us so much. Like,
it's pretty much like the B2B,
no wonder we had no
B2B
money.
director of the business. She does the whole B2B side.